So, welcome to another week. Last week was a beautiful trade. Actually, price played out exactly as we had forecasted. So, last week I was able to take three trades: USDCHF, gold, EURUSD, which is still open. So you can see USDCHF. So this was a trade I'd already forecasted. You can see I got liquidated and price actually did as we had anticipated it would. As for Euro USD, you can see it's still open. Price actually missed my target with a few pips, but I anticipate that we're still going to get that bearish momentum because for Euro USD, I still have some swing positions running from June 2nd. So I still have those running. Remember our levels we were targeting, we're really bearish Euro USD and we have targets on the monthly fair value gap. So that's why I still have some positions running and I'm not worried if I leave positions running. As for gold, I was able to position myself on Thursday after FOMC Wednesday. So I normally share these analysis in my trading group. I'll leave a link in the description box below if you want to join the community. So we're starting a new week, week 26, and we're going to look at dollar, USDCHF, Euro USD, GBPUSD, gold, and BTCUSD. Again, this is my Notion trading journal. If you want a copy of this template so that you can also be using it in your journaling, I'll also leave a link in the description box. So we're going to start our analysis with the dollar index as usual, and we'll start from the weekly time frame. So if you look at the weekly time frame, you can see clearly the market is now clear. The structure is now clear. We are definitely bullish. And we have been calling out these bullish moves all the way from the month of March, May. We have been calling out this. We knew very well that this is what is going to happen. And our target is the monthly fair value gap. That is the first target. And as you can see so far, price is actually nearing our draw of liquidity. So buyers still bullish. So let's look at the daily time frame, and you can see, of course, clearly we had all this bullish momentum, and so far, price has created a new daily range because we have created a new higher high. So we do have price actually leaving behind this fair value gap. So this fair value gap is at the discount level, and we also have this fair value gap here. So because you're bullish, two things are likely to happen. Either price is going to use this fair value gap to push price higher and we get price going to grab more liquidities, or which is actually what I would really want to see, is us getting that deeper retracement to this fair value gap before we see that bullish momentum. So let's look at USDCHF, and USDCHF, of course, you're bullish. It's positively correlated with the dollar index, and our draw of liquidity is this 3 months fair value gap here. So on the monthly time frame, you can see we have this monthly fair value gap, which is still inside the 3 months fair value gap. So that is still our draw of liquidity. So let's look at the weekly time frame. You can see very well, strongly bullish. You can see we had this move, retracement, price tagged this, and from there we have been expecting bullish momentum. You can see we have this fair value gap, which actually price tagged, and so far this is what we have. So going forward, expecting more bullish momentum. So let's look at the daily time frame. You can see clearly on the daily time frame, of course, we had all this bullish momentum. So price has left behind this fair value gap just the same way as the dollar index. And we also have this fair value gap here. So again, the same thing. Either price will use this, we get a bullish move to grab some liquidity, or we might get that deeper retracement to around these discount levels, which is actually what I want to see before we see that bullish momentum. So let's look at Euro USD. So Euro USD and dollar index are negatively correlated. If you look at the monthly time frame, our draw of liquidity is this monthly fair value gap, and you can also see we have this monthly order block here. So this bearish momentum, we are looking, or we want to see price get to these levels here. So let's look at the weekly time frame. You can see very well last week we had all this bearish momentum, price tagged here, also this gap before giving us this bearish move, and also you can see price left behind an order block. So now this order block is a PDRE on the weekly time frame. If we can get a retracement, price to target, and then you continue going lower, that will still be nice. So let's look at the daily time frame. You can clearly see we had all this bearish momentum, and price has left behind this fair value gap here on the daily time frame. And the weekly order block is right here. So I want to see price give us that retracement to tag this weekly order block and also tag this daily fair value gap before we see that bearish momentum. So let's look at GBPUSD. So GBPUSD and EURUSD are positively correlated, so which means they move together. Now you can see on the weekly time frame, price has left behind this order block here. So that's the only PDRA we have. If you're gonna get a retracement, either price to get to this order block, or price might use a daily key level, which you're going to look at before we see that bearish momentum. So let's look at the daily time frame. You can clearly see we have this daily fair value gap. So price can use this to push price lower, or we can get a deeper retracement for price to tag that weekly order block and also tag this daily fair value gap before we see that bearish momentum. Or we can get the market actually wicking to this gap here. Can you see we have a volume imbalance there? Yes, this volume imbalance can still be used to push price lower, and then we fail to get to the order block and this fair value gap. So I'm watching these levels here. So let's look at gold. And for gold, I'm sure you know very well, I've been preaching bearish gold ever since price was around this fair value gap. We've been looking at bearish gold, bearish, and my bias for gold is still bearish. And I'm looking at a situation where gold actually price can get to this sell side liquidity here, and also this sell side liquidities. On the daily time frame, you can see price actually got a retracement, tagged this fair value gap. Then we have all this bearish momentum. Price left behind this inversion fair value gap. And you also see we have an order block here formed by price. So currently the market is just done with the retracement. We have that retracement and the market is going lower from the retracement. So now continuation lower, that's what you're looking at. We can get a retracement for price to tag this order block. Then we see the bearish momentum and it fails to get to this inversion fair value gap, or we get that retracement to the inversion for price to just tag the inversion fair value gap, then give us that bearish momentum. So let's look at BTCUSD. And for BTCUSD, you know very well, guys, I'm bearish. And if you look at the 6 months time frame, I want to show you something. You can clearly see on the 6 months time frame, price made this higher high. And so far, we've been having this bearish momentum. Okay, so far for me, what I'm looking at this fair value gap on the 6 months time frame as the draw of liquidity for price. And you can see we also have an order block around this price here. So the first draw of liquidity for me is the 6 months fair value gap. You can see it opens at 49,000. So let's look at the weekly time frame. On the weekly time frame, of course, it's so clear. You can see price tagged that, and then we've had all this bearish momentum. Price left behind this fair value gap, which actually got tagged the week that just ended. And so far, I'm anticipating more bearish momentum. So on the daily time frame, you can see so far this is what we have. Price actually left behind this fair value gap, and you have this inversion fair value gap. So this is a balanced price range right here. So if you're going to get that bearish momentum, I want to see actually price tag this balanced price range, and this should be used to push price lower. We don't want to see the market violate this. If the market invalidates this balanced price range, then there's a high probability that BTCUSD we are likely to get more retracement to fill all these fair value gap that we still have left behind here. But so far as I'm concerned, I'm bearish for BTCUSD, and the first PDRA that I'm watching is this balanced price range. This is what I want the market to use to actually give us that bearish momentum. So that is all I prepared for this weekly outlook video. If you enjoyed these videos, guys, give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed, kindly hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.